We also need lots and lots of other strong relationships in our lives. And that's something that we tend to forget, that people like you who are helping other people are just as important sometimes. When during a time of crisis, we must never forget that it's all these other social networks in our lives that make it possible for us to survive and thrive. In a crisis, you might be far more important than an intimate relationship because you're the person who's accessible. You're the one who's most relevant at that particular moment. We all like a powerful identity. Now, I know some of you, I'm hoping, are old enough to remember the image I carry in my mind, at least, which is John Travolta in Saturday Night Fever. The way he sort of walks around in that movie, the suits and the music and that Travolta strut, the way he sort of carries himself, you know, like that. I mean, that is, for me, the embodiment of identity. And we are all looking for that. But identity is not something, again, that's just inside of us. It's a bit of a misunderstanding about identity, is that somehow it's inside. You don't build a big identity by standing in front of a mirror before you go to work and going, today, I'm going to be the best that I can be. I'm going to be the best that I can be. I'm a superhero today. Like, it doesn't work that way. Identity is co-constructed. What it is if you leave that mirror and then the first thing you encounter is someone who tells you you're nothing but a piece of crap sort of thing, then that is not going to help you sustain. What we need for our identity is that sense that we strut and others acknowledge us for that strut. Which brings me to this, the sixth thing that we kind of need in our lives, which is very much this notion of that we need to have some control over who we are as people. We need to be able to make decisions. And this, again, isn't something, see, I'm talking about if you're in a work site that's taken away that sense of control, that's pushed you into new job roles without your consent, or making you do things that you don't feel good about, then yes, your resilience will be threatened. You can, in a sense, flip the switch a little bit in your brain and say, okay, I'm going to accommodate, I'm going to learn this new task, I'm going to take this on. Absolutely, that will help. But fundamentally, we still need an experience of control. And that's why it's such a dance. It's a dance between our employers and the environment in which we live. And I'm going to argue, if you can't find that control on your work site, what people do is they find it elsewhere. How many of you, for instance, volunteer in your communities? You're coaches to some little league, something or the other. You teach some other skill to somebody. You volunteer with a fire department or something. Those are parts of your identity and part of this experience of control in your life that seem to help us to weather very difficult periods of challenge. And again, if you notice, I'm talking about the combination of a well-lived life on the job, but also a well-lived life outside of work. And the two seem to, there's a nice synergy between the two. As long as you're finding these things somewhere in your life, you're more likely to do well. We all need also a sense of belonging. We need to know that somebody misses us, that we're actually part of the world, that kind of thing. We get that through our culture. We sometimes get, if you're involved in a spiritual community, a religious community, that's often a powerful way of getting that. Somewhere in your life, you need to know that you matter, and that you belong, and that you count. And having 4,000 Facebook friends may not be the only way to do that. It's got to be more substantial in a sense, but it can be potentially online, though. It just has to be substantive, and that you have a sense of actually being known for the contribution you can make. There's other things that we see in resilience. We know that people need to be respected for their rights and have genuine responsibilities for caring for others. That seems to really help us be resilient, which is kind of cool.